Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Ace Podcast Nation. This is Cardiff City World. This is your Watford versus Cardiff City preview. Yes, guys, transfer window is gone. The championship is back. It's time to talk football once again instead of transfer rumours and in the know bullshit and whatnot, as everyone on Twitter and alike tries to be the first to do this. No, it's live. This is live. I did a pre-recorded one, but I decided to do a live one because my predicted team and that was kind of out of date because of the signings. It was very difficult to do. So I thought I'd just do it as we go. I've even got some graphics loaded up and that. But look, let's start with Watford. They are in a very difficult period at the moment. They've only won a couple of games in their last 5. It's been an interesting period, I would say. They haven't been playing well. They haven't been getting the results, I think, which they would like. But that doesn't always translate, especially in the Championship, to form. But I did watch them. I think it was against Sheffield Wednesday the other day. And I think they are very get-attable, if that's a phrase or a word. I think there's holes in their game. There's places where Cardiff can get at them. And actually, the players that Cardiff have signed and the way that I think they will line up actually is a very positive aspect in terms of the way I would target Watford and I would try and get at them. But they sit just above us in the table. There's 4 points between us. So if we could get a win, that would be massive in terms of closing the gap. In terms of the form table, well, Watford are right down there in 16th, whereas Cardiff are up in 12th. That's generally because Watford have drawn the last drawn a few more. We've won 2, but also lost a couple in there as well. It's really, really difficult to predict. It kind of depends on which version of these teams turns up in a lot of ways. Like for Watford, their form has been not great. However, with Sheffield Wednesday, it was a late goal which denied them 3 points. So they have to be aware of that. Their keeper in particular was very, very good. I'm also a big fan of a couple of their players. The one fullback, I think it's Andrews. Let me just bring it up now. He's very, very good. But I like Jakatse out on the wide right. Real good footballer. They've now signed him on a permanent deal. And he's real good. I like him a lot. Dangerous player. And that's a cracking signing, in fairness to them, to get him on permanent, because I think he's probably too good for the Championship, in my opinion, which, all of this is my opinion. I'm interested in your opinions. Drop them in the comments. Obviously, we're talking about our opponents for this weekend, Watford, at the moment. In terms of the lineup, they tend to line up this a very similar way. They play like a 4-1-4-1 with Jake Livermore pulling the strings. He sits just in front of the defence, and then they play 4 pretty attacking players. So in possession, they will almost play like a 2-3-4 sort of 1, almost 2-3-3-2. But basically, the 2 fullbacks will push up alongside Livermore to make a 3 in midfield. Occasionally, Hodet in the centre-back will push up as well, but usually the fullbacks, Andrews and Lewis, will push up to create that extra bit of width. You've got Chivakatse on the left. You've got Martins on the right then as the 4 in front of Liverpool with Dali Bashir and Kone, who play in the more central areas. I really, really like both players. Dali Bashir is the one who tends to drop in alongside Livermore. So when they lose possession, that 4-1-4-1 very quickly becomes like a 4-5-1, because Deli Bashir will drop in alongside Livermore. The 2 wingers will sort of tuck in, but they're not super disciplined defensively. The wingers, they're very attack-minded players. Martin's a bit more defensively aware, I would say, but the wingers will tuck in a little bit. Deli Bashir will tuck in with Livermore, and then Kone will be in that space between the striker and the midfield. But I really think, particularly in the transitions, if Cardiff get their press right and they time it right, there's real spaces to get at them, because if the fullbacks are up with Livermore, there's space in behind in the channels, which obviously you need your striker to run the channels. You need the wingers to be high and wide. And there's that, you can overrun Jake Livermore, because he is quite often the kind of one who sits and they look to play from the defence to him. They'll go back occasionally and then look for the return ball in behind the fullback. Livermore is very much the player who dictates everything within that Watford side. Very experienced player. Obviously, he's played at a very high level with Spurs and played European football. Knows what's what. Very good footballer. But has he got the legs? And this is something which I've been very critical of Cardiff. Well, not critical, but like it's been a worry. Is you've got Siopis. He started like a house on fire. Very, very good holding midfielder. But as the games went on, you could see that Rawls and Wintle didn't have the attributes necessary to progress the ball up the pitch. They didn't quite have the legs. So Siopis, I talked about this the other day. Siopis is almost trying to do two roles. He's trying to be the holding midfielder, the destroyer who intercepts and blocks everything and covers as the fullbacks push forward. But then he's also trying to take the ball off the defence and progress the ball up to a Colwell or whoever's playing number 10, the wingers. And if the wingers are narrow, it makes it even more difficult. So the signing of Mark Turnbull is going to be vital, and I really hope that he is match fit and ready to go. But we'll talk a little bit more about Cardiff in just a second. Let's finish off on Watford. This is how I think Watford will line up. Bear in mind that these lineups predict what I'm predicting their manager would do. So obviously, even with the opposing teams, it's very difficult. So I think Watford go Ben Hamer in goal. They go Andrews left back, Lewis right back, Pollock and Hoyt in centre back. Jake Livermore is that one. And then you've got the four of Deli Bashir, Kone, Chavatse and Martins. They tend to play a bit more lateral than what I've got it on the team sheet there, with Bayo up top. And I think if we can put pressure on Jake Livermore, not let him get his head up and win the ball in the transition off the midfielders, whether it's Deli Bashir, whether it's Kone, whether it's Livermore, whether it's the wingers, and then get the ball up to our strikers, to our wingers, to our number 10, we can really do some damage. And I think, even though I think the form sheet for Watford is lying a little bit to us, I don't think they're as bad as their form suggests. However, I do see a lot of holes in their system, their game. There's players there who have got weaknesses. They haven't got a great deal of pace in the centre-back areas. And they look to play from the back. They look to play through the lines, something which we did very well at the start of the season. But what we also did very well at the start of the season, you look at the Huddersfield game, the Swansea game, is we pressed very well as a unit. The striker being the trigger point, number 10 goes with him, one of the wingers goes, and they closed that space. And we were winning a lot of balls high up the field. And I feel that if we do that against this Watford side, they could really be under pressure. In terms of the player to watch for Watford, it's difficult. I really like Del Bashir, and I really like Livermore. I think Livermore is vital to the way they play. And actually, I think if Cardiff are going to target one player or one element of that system, Jake Livermore is that person to target, because I think if we can get Colwell around him, if Colwell starts, or Ramsey, or whoever it may be in number 10, get him around him, get him pinching off ball, put him under pressure, don't let him get his head up. I think there's something in there for Cardiff to target. But in terms of players to watch, my players to watch is the player I can't pronounce, Chakvet Tatsa, who plays off the left. As I mentioned earlier, just signed a new permanent deal with Watford. Very dangerous player, got a lot of creativity. Can beat his man, very skillful, but what he's very, very good at is cutting inside and linking up with your Kones, Del Bashirs, your Bayo up front. You'll look to try and play off him, play in behind, little 1-2s. So Perry NG, if it's Perry NG on the right, or if we play as a 5, whatever it may be, have to be very aware of his attributes. But on the plus side, I think defensively, he perhaps doesn't always put the same amount of work in as the other opposite side in Martins. So there is players to get at. Let's have a look what we're all here for. let's have a look at the mighty Bluebirds. The mighty Bluebirds. Let's talk about the transfer window first. What do we think of Cardiff City's transfer window? Well, tell you what, before we go any further, you tell me, what would you rate Cardiff City's transfer window out of 10? First and foremost, you tell me in the comments. What would you rate the Cardiff City window? Who's a good signing? Have they dropped the ball a little bit? Did they aim too high? Look, ultimately, I think it's very clear we didn't get the manager's number one targets. But if you compare our squad now on the 2nd of February to the 1st of January, the squad's better. The first team, the first 11 is better. I think, as I'm going to discuss in a minute, I think the manager's going to change the system. I think he's shown earlier in the season that he quite likes it, but he didn't have the personnel to pull it off. I think now he has the personnel to pull off that system, and I think that system can be successful for Cardiff. I know, like, the first thing people will say is, well, it hasn't worked for Cardiff so far this season. Every time they've done it in the league, they've looked a bit ropey, but I do think that was down to the personnel. For instance, when he played that 3-5-2 most recently, we had Rawls, Wintle, and Siopis as the three. There is no creativity there. And for a 3-5-2 to work, you need the wing backs to be up and down, working incredibly hard. But you also need your holding midfielder to cover said wing backs on both sides. And you need a midfielder next to him who's going to be also very aggressive, lots of legs, but able to play on the ball. Now, Rawls has got those passing qualities, but he hasn't probably got the legs to effectively play that system. And I actually think the manager, the way I would set it up is like a 3-5-2 with Siopis, Turnbull, and then a Colwell or a Ramsey just behind two strikers. But I actually think the manager might set it up as the striker with Colwell or Ramsey and a Carlin Grant or someone like that. So he's got two behind the striker, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So first of all, he's got to keep it. Runnisson's gone back to Arsenal. Ethan Howworth has come in. Ethan Howworth is a very, very good keeper, and he is a big, big boy. So in my opinion, I don't think it's controversial to say that Runnison out and Howworth in is a very, very good signing. Ethan Howworth in the Championship last year was, I think, let's not be hyperbolic. He wasn't, I was going to say sensational, but he was very, very good. He dominates his area. He's a big keeper. And I think some of the weaknesses that, even though I think Alnwick has had a great, great season, I think he's really improved as a goalkeeper all around. With his feet, particularly, I think he's improved a lot. However, I think Ethan Howworth does all that and addresses some of the issues that Alnwick has, and I think that's massive. Okay, and then you've got the left wing back from Manchester City. I forgot his name, Wilson something. For God's sake, my memory like a sieve. Wilson E. Esperant. I've heard from a few people up in Manchester way that he is a very, very highly rated left wing back. Apparently he could play like left wing as well as left back, a bit like O'Dowda, but supposedly his best position is as a wing back. Supposed to be very good, very quick. I think we needed someone who could do that role because Collins, I think, has done exceptionally well for someone who come back from a long-term injury. But as I've mentioned a few times, that back four looks exhausted. They haven't been able to be rotated. Collins has played nearly every minute of every game, coming back after a long injury. He needs competition, but he also needs a rest. So you've got Josh Wilson, Esperand. That's the perfect type of signing. Young, hungry, wants to play, quick, skillful, technically very good, athletic, all the things you want from a left-sided fullback or wing-back. So I think that's a big shot in the arm in that side of things. You can give Collins a rest. If we do go with 3-5-2, Esperance slots in very nicely. Nat Phillips is an interesting one. Because let me tell you something, right? Nat Phillips has not come to Cardiff City to sit on the bench. So if you're going to stick with the system that we've played our best football in this year, 4-2-3-1, one of them's got to go. Or one of them's got to be dropped, should I say. Now, I don't think that the manager will drop Gutas. He's his guy. He brought him in. He's his guy. So in my opinion, it would be McGuinness who that manager's going to drop. However, I don't think he's going to drop either. And I think McGuinness is vital to the way Cardiff City want to play football and the way the manager wants to play football. You need McGuinness in there to be the defender who can play through the lines, can pass and progress the ball up the field without just hoofing it anywhere. He's got a good cross-field pass. He can do good short passes, good long passes. He's athletic. He's young. Unfortunately, he's looked tired, which has meant that he's become a bit fatigued. So whereas at the start of the season, the passing from the back had purpose, it's looked very laboured, very slow, kind of just knocking it about, very boring, very sideways. So for me, hopefully, first and foremost, McGuinness, Gutas, and Collins in particular, but NG as well. I'm hoping that this rest will have done them good and they'll all be revitalised and ready to go. Next side, and David Turnbull, absolutely thrilled with this one. This was the one which I was looking at yesterday and I kept refreshing. He is some player, and if Cardiff City can get the best out of him, he is the exact type of profile player that we needed alongside Siopis. He's aggressive. He's a set-piece specialist. He scores goals. He creates goals. He's technically very good. He's got an eye for a pass, which is something that we desperately need to progress that ball up the field, go through the stages. But he also wins the ball. He also wins the ball high up the field. And I think that's vital to the way Cardiff City play their best football, especially away from home, where we make ourselves solid and then we try and hit teams on the break. To do that, you need two midfielders that can win the football. But then when you win the football, one of them at least can set the team off quickly and get the wing backs, get the strikers in behind. You need that. Get the ball to the number 10 to create something. You need that in that system. And I think David Turnbull is a cracking signing. And I'm absolutely thrilled that he's come permanently because I wondered if it would be a loan. The other interesting thing, and I know I was one of these people who said this, like 2 million does seem steep for a player who's out of contract. But if it's the right type of player, the right profile of player, the right age, everything which you want, then 2 million is a snip, I think. But I accept like 2 million when he's got 6 months left on his contract is not, it feels like not great business financially. But then if he goes somewhere else in January because someone else pays it and we wanted to wait till the summer, then the board gets criticised for waiting, trying to get him to sign a pre-contract on a free. So that is what it is. And then we've got the striker, the man who no one knows how to pronounce his name. I'm going with Diedo, but I think that's probably wrong, but apologies to him. Diedo, we had a good look at his stats the other day on the City show. Look, his scoring record is very similar to, say, Kiefer Moore's in the Championship. Is kind of very similar. However, I think his attributes are a bit different. I think one, he's got probably half a yard of pace more than Kiefer Moore. I'm not going to pretend I've seen a whole lot of him. A lot of this opinion is based on stats and clips. The clips I've seen of him, a couple of things caught my eye straight away. One, I think he runs in behind a little bit more than Kiefer Moore. His movement in the box when teams get into the wide areas to put crosses in is very good. He seems to have a knack for sort of checking his run, going attacking the near post, or like picking the right run to move. Recycling his movement is also something which caught my eye. But the thing which I'm kind of most happy about that I saw in his play from some clips is his ability to take the ball under pressure with a centre back up his arse. That is something that we have sorely missed, because the problem that we have had all season is if we play Meite up front, his link-up play is excellent, but he's got no pace, can't get in behind. He's often not in the right place, and when he is in the right place, his finishing is awful. And then you've got Atete, whose finishing is better. He's got a bit of magic in him, But unfortunately, he spends most of the time on the floor, very weak physically. And I would have loved to have seen Tete go out on loan, but I do understand keeping him just for an option on the bench. But I'm hopeful that Diego can sew everything together in those forward areas, and I'm really excited to see whether it be Ramsey or whether it be Colwell in that number 10 position with a striker who can link up well and get him behind, but also a midfielder who can get the ball to him when they're in good positions, because we have really missed the boat a few times where the number 10 has dropped into like nice pocket of space and we haven't got someone with the ability to play through the lines. So it's going to be really interesting now to see how we progress. We're going to have a look at the Cardiff City side, how I think that they're going to line up. I want that to be clear. This is what I think the manager will do. This isn't necessarily what I would do. EJM says, just want to say thanks so much for being one of the only platforms to cover Cardiff City news. Respect to you for keeping it going regardless of the number of views. Yeah, mate. At the end of the day, this is a passion project for me, something which we're trying to build. And obviously from Saturday, from tomorrow, over on youtube.com/Cardiff City World, it's going to be Cardiff City content 7 days a week. Ace Podcast Nation will still be the same. It'll have a variety of podcasts with a variety of guests. But for all your Cardiff City content, Cardiff City World, please do go and subscribe. It's free. And if you're a City fan, Championship fan, every day there'll be something on there, whether it's a news roundup, vlogs, podcasts, interviews with ex-players, stuff like that. There's going to be so much. So just for instance, next week, so tomorrow night, after the rugby now, I think, we're going to have a post-game show with Rob Boyle hosting it, a couple of people on there talking about the game. Sunday, we'll have a news roundup and match reaction. A day after the reaction, sort of 5 things that we learned about Cardiff City will be the Sunday show. Monday night, Cardiff City phone-in. Tuesday night will be maybe the Michael Chopra podcast, part 1. Wednesday will be the Cardiff City podcast with myself. Thursday will be the weekend preview. And then Friday, there'll be another content. There'll also be lots of short content. And I'm delighted to say that I'm also going to be re-showing Super Kev Unscripted season 1 and season 2. So for people who don't know, I did a podcast with Kev McNaughton for 2 series. It was absolutely phenomenal. It was so funny, but they are old shows which are being re-shown. However, they're kind of evergreen content because we don't always talk about your sort of, what's going on at the time. We do things like best rock songs ever, Wales all-time 11, Cardiff all-time 11, stuff like that. So there's plenty of content coming your way. Cardiff City World on YouTube, Facebook, but all the content will be on YouTube. So please do check it out. Support the channel. And most importantly, if you're a Cardiff fan and you want to get involved, do some content, come on the shows, please do contact us because, like I say, it's a passion project. We're looking to create Cardiff City's first fan channel. All views welcome, all fans welcome. Get on board. Let's have a look at this Cardiff City. This is what I think Cardiff City will line up as against Watford. Our away form generally was pretty good at the start of the season. I think the manager has kind of, with the players he signed, I think he's kind of shown his hand in how I think he'll line up. So this is how I think Cardiff line up. I think Howarth gets the shouting goal, just because I think that's why they've brought him in. I think the defence will be McGuinness, Phillips, and Gutas. I think you have Periengi on the right wing back, and I think you have Wilson Esperand on the left, Siopis, and new signing David Turnbull as a 2 in midfield. I think Ruben Colwell then starts at number 10 with Carlin Grant and new signing Diego up front. I think Ramsey will be on the bench. I don't think he'll be ready to start. I'm hoping that I'm wrong. It'd be a massive lift to have Ramsey back and playing in that number 10 position. But I'm also excited to see what Colwell could do with these new players. I really believe that's how the manager will line up. Of course, he might say that, Turnbull and the likes of him haven't had enough time with the squad, so they might be on the bench. But I think he's brought in those players for a reason. And if I just bring that side up again, I think if you look at the players he's brought in, Esprand is a wing back. Phillips, does he want to drop McGuinness or Gutas? Probably not. He wants to play as a free. He's brought in Turnbull to play alongside Siopis, was massively needed, and he's brought in a striker. To me, he hasn't brought those players in to just sit on the bench. So that's why I think 3-5-2 makes the most sense. And if we play like we did at the start of the season, i.e. we pass from the back, but we pass with purpose, we play through the lines, we get it to people like Colwell, Grant, the wing backs, this Wilson, Esprand or NG, we get them in the right areas, Cardiff City can do damage to Watford. I also think that 3-5-2 lined up against Watford's 4-1-4-1 is the perfect way to counteract that and the perfect way to cause Watford problems in the transition. My player to watch for Cardiff City is an interesting one, isn't it? This week. I'm going to say David Turnbull. I'm super excited to see how he goes. Set piece specialist is someone that we have desperately needed. I'm so fed up of seeing corners and free kicks hit the wall or hit the first man. And I'm really excited to see if he can do what I think he can do, because I think he can. Number one, I think he can create, he can score, he can progress the ball to Colwell or Ramsey in that area. But most of all, I think he allows Siopis to be Siopis. Siopis can be the interceptor, be the destroyer, be the holding midfielder that we saw when he first came. And that, to me, is bigger than any other thing he'll bring. Because Siopis at the top of his game is one of the best holding midfielders in the Championship. He's shown that. And in that 3-5-2, by the way, with the three centre-backs, Siopis can sweep from left to right, cover the spaces that the wing-backs leave. Turnbull can push a bit further forward, looking to dictate and create. And I think if we get Turnbull and Colwell around Jake Livermore, disrupting him, disrupting the way he plays, it'll be a very, very special evening tomorrow night. My prediction for the game, 2-1 Cardiff City. I really fancy us. I really like the new signings. I think sometimes it's not about the big names. It's about getting the right players for the right job. And I believe that the manager has done that. I think that the players they've brought in fit the system he wants to play, the tactics and the way he wants to play. And I believe maybe it's the fan in me and I'm a bit biased, but I believe that that's the best way to go. Just to finish off, 10th of May in the Rose and Crown Pontypridd, we will be doing our 4th live event, Cardiff City Legends with Willie Boland. Tickets available. They're £10. If you contact the Rose and Crown, or you can email Snowy Insole at BT, I think it is, connect.com. It's all over our social medias, so check that out. Get your tickets. It'd be great to see you. The first three events were phenomenal nights with Michael Chopra, with Darren Pearce and Andy Campbell. The Michael Chopra one is out next week on Cardiff City World. It'll be in 2 parts, part 1, part 2, good 3 hours worth of content. And he didn't hold back. It was great to see. Really, really enjoyable nights. And I'm sure the people who were there will tell you the same thing. Lastly, if you'd like to become a member of Ace Podcast Nation, that is what keeps the channel going. Patreon.com/Ace Podcast Nation. It's like £2.50 a month. Literally keeps the channel going. Allows us to record in, the studios. And I got some real exciting podcasts this week. I'm doing recording all day Wednesday, pretty much. So it's going to be exciting. Anyway, I'm switching over now. Rhodri Giggs on football straight away. So please come join us, and I'll see you in a bit. Nice one. I